house.
Yeah!
How many baseball furies do we have here? So, well, you guys are going to get your value for money. This is the best $7 you ever spent. Yes. Because tonight we got a huge rumble of a double bill. Both cult classics, both released in 1979, both about New York gangs, both based on novels, but both very different movies. The latter is something of an unseen gem, but the first up is one of the biggest cult phenomenons in cinema, influencing directors, writers, other movies, and also fashion, music videos, countless video games, comic books. And the combined credits of our guests for tonight would push the Warriors to a 3 a.m. start. So I'm going to do a selected filmography of the people who are going to come and join me on stage. First up, the executive producer of this movie, who, if some of you are here on Monday for The Driver you met before, worked on Peter Bogdanovich's Target, Last Picture Show, and Paper Moon, before going on to work on The Last Waltz. Associate producer on The Driver, which we saw on Monday. They're producing, among many others, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Poltergeist, Gremlins, Goonies, Back to the Future, Inner Space, Empire of the Sun, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, a personal favourite of mine, and the new Beverly, Arachnophobia he directed. Yeah. we have to show Arachnophobia as a midnight at the new Beverly. More recently produced The Sixth Sense, the Bourne trilogy, and Spielberg's upcoming The War Horse. Frank Marshall is here. For the warm reception on Monday that convinced everybody to come back for this. The producer of The Warriors, who we're about to, was previously responsible for the following: John Melissa's Dillinger, Walter Hill's debut Hard Times, Quentin Tarantino's favourite Rolling Thunder,
Yeah.
The Driver, Hooper, The Warriors. I hope he doesn't mind me mentioning this next film because Xanadu is a hit in the new Beverly. Cody programmed at this cinema in 2008, and she programmed Xanadu, and I came to see it with her, and I swear to God, everybody in the audience mouthed along every line. Let's not dwell on that. But some other of his credits, huge hits and cult classics: Walter Hill's 48 Hours, Streets of Fire,
Yeah.
Predator and Die Hard,
Yeah.
Field of Dreams, The Rocketeer, Boogie Nights, another cult favorite,
Yeah.
Mystery Man, and more recently, among many others, Hellboy 1 and 2, and The Watchmen. Larry Gordon is here. With popcorn. I love that you both have popcorn. It's amazing.
Can't see a movie without popcorn. Keep it coming.
Now, if you were here on Monday, you met this man before. The writer-director of this movie started working in the business as a second assistant director on The Thomas Crown Affair, Bullet, and Woody Allen's Take the Money and Run, which is amazing. He went on to write Hickey and Boggs and Sam Peckinpah's The Getaway, before making his directorial debut with Hard Times, followed by The Driver, which we saw on Monday. Who saw The Driver on Monday? Then The Warriors. Then The Long Riders, Southern Comfort, 48 Hours, Streets of Fire, Extreme Prejudice, Red Heat, Johnny Handsome, Geronimo, Wild Bill, Last Man Standing, HBO's award-winning Tales from the Crypt and Deadwood, as well as the Emmy award-winning Broken Trail. He's back again. Walter Hill is here.
Woo!
And finally, there we go, I'll take this one. Finally, in the iconic role of Ajax, this actor went on to star in, among others, countless credits: Cruising, The Long Riders, 48 Hours, The Cotton Club, The Dream Team, Drugstore Cowboy, Wild Bill, Mortal Kombat, a new Beverly favourite, Pineapple Express. I'm going to keep going. As well as TV shows like Sex and the City, Battlestar Galactica. It's Dexter's dad, James Remar.
Yeah!
shouldn't show up dressed like that with me.
There's a male and female version. So, out of the 4 of these guests, Walter is actually not going to be here at the end, so I'm going to ask everybody to talk about the context of it, and then maybe we'll talk more about the making of it after the film. The Warriors, like the Wanderers, is based on a '60s set novel by Sol Uric, which Larry, you found the novel, and you have a. Isn't it an interesting way that you actually found the novel?
Yeah, kind of. Interesting to me. I was looking through a used bookstore, and they had used books, spinning that wheel, that thing you spin around looking books, and saw the little paperback, called Mr. Uric, who was starving to death, and offered him a little bit of money that I had. He was thrilled, I was thrilled, and now we're all thrilled.
Was it the book that you found, you actually found it had, the cover had been ripped off, and that's what drew your eye?
There was no cover, no. But this shows you these things do happen in our business, and the rest is history, as they say.
And it was not a well-known novel, is that correct?
It was unknown. An unknown novel.
And then Walter, you adapted it, or there was a script already written, is that right? Or you adapted
it? There was. It was all a little complicated. I don't know how interesting anything is, but Larry, I think it was while we were doing The Driver, Larry had shown me the book, and I read the book, and I told him I thought it was a terrific, potentially terrific movie, but nobody never let us do it. And then we went off, Larry and Frank and I were going to make a Western, and the finance fell apart.
Which we still need to make. Called The Last Gun.
That's right. And Larry, I remember him showing what a great producer he is, and he is, by any definition. He is a great producer. He, out of the ashes of the movie that was going to be the Western, he said, "Would you still interested in doing the Warriors?" And I said, "Well, sure." And he said, "I think I can get it set up," which he did at Paramount within, I don't know, what seemed like within a week. Frank and I were in the Sherry, Netherlands, working on the script. There was a script, yes, by David C. Goodman, I think it was. David Shaver, sorry. I'm sorry. And the movie got set up, and we got a chance to make it. That was in, I think, April, May, and we were shooting by June.
Now, the script, actually the novel as well draws on Greek mythology, but then you also brought a big kind of comic book sensibility to it. And in fact, one of the things that's interesting about this one is that, a lot of your films could be described as gritty, and yet The Warriors and Streets of Fire are amazingly colourful.
Comic book.
Yeah. No, but I mean, they both are very colourful films.
I kind of feel like this is vaudeville. We were here a couple of days ago. I have to tell you, I am by nature, I don't like these things very much. And I don't like to explain movies. I think they should stand on their own. I do, and I think the directors that are always either apologizing or trying to explain or something like that, it just, it ought to stand there for itself. There was a moment, to address your question, there was a moment, it's in the book. I loved the idea of the book. I did not love the book. But there was a moment where one of the kids one of the I believe they weren't called the Warriors, they were the Dominators, if I remember correctly, who is looking at a comic book, and the comic book is of the true Greek story of Xenophon and the March of the 10,000. And he's reading this comic book, and he says, hey, they're like us, you know. And I said, really, rather than the book, that's what the film should be. It was the one moment of insight. And it was a hard one to explain to anybody. But that was really again, the more you know, the less you appreciate. I think it's always, you know, I have to say this. I think all of you know that I do like Westerns. When I was a kid, the guy would ride into town, nobody knew why. He would shoot somebody, he was clearly a good person, but da-da-da-da. The more you knew why he was there and doing it, the less interesting it got. And I just keep thinking that, you know, every film really should be kind of mysterious. I think this is a strange and different movie, and that's one of the reasons that it's, I mean, what is it, 30-some years later, you're all here, and we deeply appreciate it.
Yeah.
Made a couple of old men happy.
These baseball furies appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well, it's true. I mean, the film does kind of hang on, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
But you know, it would be very wrong to say it's just is these things too much center on me. It was a lot of people who kind of caught the vibe on it. There was a woman, Bobby Mannix, was our costume designer, and I kept telling her to be crazy, and she was pretty crazy to start with, but and she would come in with costume after costume, and you know, I mean, a lot of them I didn't think up or something. I mean, it was her. It was also the opportunity. You can never. And we had the great thing that can happen to filmmakers, and it was in some ways agony, I think, for Larry, Frank, and myself. But it was wonderful, and that was you were, by the nature of the film, you couldn't use traditional actors. You had to find new people that were up to this, who kind of caught the vibe, and frankly were physical enough. One of the things when we met James was, I just thought I thought he was such a terrific actor. He could read the lines. I thought he was kind of, I mean, he was so young.